Awesome. Thanks for being here today. Welcome to today's webinar on navigating platforms for participatory sciences. I'm Reanna Putnam, the program manager at the Association for Advancing Participatory Sciences, and I'm pleased to introduce today's session and to have the opportunity to hear updates from these innovative platforms. I first wanted to give a brief introduction to AAPS for those of you who are new. Sarah, you can go to the next slide. AAPS is the professional home for the participatory sciences where practitioners come to share the foundations for effective projects, explore collaborations, and have nuanced conversations about issues impacting work in this field. We focus on the distinct practices that define the participatory sciences and know just how hard this work can be. We host a conference, we have a peer-reviewed journal, and a member community working to advance work in this field. We're co-hosting today's event with the NASA Sit-Side Leaders Series, and we'll hear more from Sarah Kirn and Mark Kuchner later today. I've had the pleasure of being a part of the planning team for the Leaders Series for 5 years now, and I've helped develop engaging event formats and connected the NASA-funded project leaders to field leaders and new ideas from the broader field of participatory sciences. So I wanted to do a couple of logistics before I turn it over to Sarah. We are recording today's event, and we'll share it on both the NASA Sit-Side Leaders page and the AAPS website. If you're having trouble hearing speakers, you should be able to turn on closed captions, and their transcript is also available. Both of those options are in settings. If you have any questions during today's event, we're going to be pretty tight on time and are going to be using the Q&A tool in the chat. So if you have questions for presenters, we encourage you to use the Q&A tool. There are options to upvote things, to comment on things, to ask questions anonymously. And so that's going to be your go-to place if you have clarifying questions for presenters. If you have quick questions or comments for other folks, you can just put those in the chat. For now, if you want to go to the chat and introduce yourself, we're excited to learn more about who's on the line today. Tell us where you're calling from and if you're involved in any projects. We're excited to get to know you there. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to tell us a little bit more about the Leader Series in today's event.
Thanks, Reanna. So my name is Sarah Kirn. I work at the Gulf of Maine Research Institute, and my full-time role is supporting the NASA Citizen Science Program with Mark Kuchner and producing this series with partners from AAPS, Reanna Putnam and Jennifer Shirk, and also Heather Fisher from Crowd Informatics. Sorry about that. So if you have joined us through AAPS, I'm just going to give you the briefest introduction to the NASA Sit-Side Leaders Series. As our homepage says, this is a screenshot from our homepage. This is a learning series that's really focused on helping people who want to lead or are considering leading NASA-supported citizen science projects. Everything we talk about is broadly relevant to anyone doing participatory science. We have been welcoming everyone in, regardless of your affiliation with NASA, since the very beginning in 2020. So, and I do want to show you, there is our QR code. This is our website. We've recently reorganized 6 years of recording. So if you go to our website and visit that recordings and resources page, you'll now find everything organized in thematic groups. We're hoping this is a much more user-friendly way for you to find the information and the speakers that you need to learn from when you need to learn from them. You can use the search tool on that recordings and resources page, and it will pull all kinds of resources for you, as well as the recording. So we do encourage you to visit that website. And also because we've been doing this a while, and we're always very curious to learn from you how better to serve you. We have a new survey, and we're hoping that you will give us your feedback. What that you've heard from us or learned through this series has really helped you, been most helpful to you, and what are you interested in hearing about in the future? So use that QR code, grab that URL, and maybe just stick it in your pocket. We're going to share it again at the end, but we really sincerely, as always, want your input to make these things better. So we look forward to your feedback and your ideas. So, platforms. Before my current role with NASA, I spent almost 2 decades developing and managing citizen and community science projects here in Maine, including overseeing the development of a custom platform. And when that custom platform had to be replaced because the version of Drupal that we built it in was no longer supported. I got to know a lot of our speakers today and a lot of the platforms you're going to hear about because I was looking around for alternatives to redeveloping our own platform. I bring a lot of experience to today's conversation, and I'm happy to talk about this with anyone if these questions and topics are of particular interest to you. So I'm going to begin right now by giving you my high-level perspective on the first and I think most important question regarding platforms, which is why should you consider or why should you choose an existing platform rather than developing your own? So I'm going to give you an analogy. Imagine that you need a place to live. You have the choice of a free or nearly free apartment in one of several buildings. They all are solid options, but they each have a limitation or a quirk, right? Such as life. One is a great location, but it's a walk-up. Another is where a whole bunch of your friends live, but they don't allow animals, pets, and you have a dog. Another is in a great location, super light, great space, but they don't allow parties. And the thing that lights you up most is bringing your friends together to have barbecues. So you get the picture. Everything has a drawback. So your other option is to actually build your own home with your own money and your own expertise. You have a lot. You have some land. It's yours, but you're going to have to clear it. You're going to have to dig a foundation. You're going to have to bring in utilities. You're going to have to design a house. You're going to have to find the materials. You're going to have to either build it all yourself or pull the people together to build it with you. The good news is if you build that team, you can have exactly what you want or what you think you want today. But chances are your needs are going to change through time. It will be yours. You can renovate it as you need to, but it's all on you. So which are you going to choose? Most people, especially all of us on a budget, would only build their own house if they were confident that they couldn't have the life that they really wanted to have in any of those free apartments. Same thing with platforms. The platform you choose for your project is the foundation on which you will create your community, on which you'll create the experiences for your participants, for your collaborators. It's the thing that will enable you to do or not do your scientific task. It's not fate, but it is restricted. You can be inventive, you can bring in other tools, but it's definitely going to constrain what you can create. So just like with homes, everyone needs something different, and different opportunities exist, different options exist out in the housing market to serve different needs. There are houses that are big, there are houses that are little. There are tiny apartments, efficiency apartments, they're great big sprawling estates, and that's great. Same thing with platforms. There's lots of different platforms out there. They offer different services, they offer different functionality. And thank goodness, right? Because we all go to the farmer's market because we want to get the thing that we want. And that choice, more choice, means there's more options. It's more better for more people. So aren't we lucky that we have so many wonderful platforms with us today? So why choose an existing platform? You save a ton of time, save a ton of money. You benefit from the expertise of people who've come before you in this field. The projects that have been on that platform, the people who've thought about it enough and constructed the platform and thought through what are the things that you're going to need. There's often a volunteer base. There's people already working on projects on that platform, and often those people move among projects. So you tap into an existing group of volunteers. There are drawbacks. You get the features that that platform has, and you don't get the features that platform doesn't have. You have less control, perhaps, over the participant experience to some degree, right? There's things that you can do. So we're going to hear from 6 of the greatest platforms out there, the ones that are most commonly used in our field in this country or in this area. And you're going to hear about those different features and functionality that they can offer you. I'm going to introduce the first speaker, and then they're going to pass the mic forward. They're all on a really tight time limit because we want to give you all an overview, and then we're going to have some time for conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker. Kicking us off today will be Cait Bailey from just down the coast here in Maine. Cait is part of the Mount Desert Island Biological Laboratory. We call it MDIBL here. And she has been the chief champion and developer of the Anecdata program for well over a decade now. Cait, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. It's really great to see you here. I'm Cait Bailey. I'm the software developer behind Anecdata.org. And yeah, it's so great to be here. Next slide, please. Wanted to talk a little bit about, see, there I am when I had green hair. That's our campus down in Salisbury Cove, Maine. We've been there since 1898. And our laboratory, mostly we do physiological research, and recently we've been working on regeneration and aging. And so you might think, well, why does Anecdata come from there? And the cool thing is that we also do a lot of environmental work. So we do work on arsenic in drinking water. We do work on PFAS. And to manage all of the data that we collect for the various kinds of science that we do that involves citizens, we do a lot of that. We needed to build our own platform because we just weren't able to collect the kind of data that we needed. We needed to find originally where eelgrass was and where it wasn't on the coast of Maine, and we didn't find any platforms that supported that kind of negative data at the time. If we'd found sitsci.org at the time, we might have just used sitsci. But I said, hey, I can make websites, and so I made a quick website over the course of one night, and ta-da, the rest is history. Next slide, please. So Anecdata, we are a free participatory science platform. Anybody can collaborate with their teammates to create a project. All of the data that gets submitted into Anecdata is immediately available for analysis and download. And the other cool thing about Anecdata is that we try to make it social. So we try to take some inspiration from social media in terms of being able to comment. We've got forums. People can like each other's observations, ways to make people feel valued. And finally, there is an app, which is pretty cool. Next slide, please. And so this is a map of all the projects on Anecdata. The size of the circles is based on how many observations each project has. And yeah, you can see the really big one down there is actually in South Carolina. That's South Carolina Aquarium's litter-free digital journal project, which collects trash that's been picked up all over South Carolina. So yeah, anybody can, and any organization can create a project on Anecdata. It's completely free. We have multiple participation models. So for example, you can, well, actually I'm going to cover that in the next slide. You can have multiple data sheets so that, if you have different protocols, they can all be kind of part of the same data set, and then you can filter by data sheet. We've got privacy features, so you can actually redact parts of the data that come in so that the public doesn't see the whole data set in case you need to collect some data that's, sensitive in some manner. You can have preset observation sites. We call them hotspots, which let you collect data at the same site over and over. So that lets you kind of, catalog all your sites, and things get geospatially oriented based on those preset sites. We've got data analysis tools. And finally, we offer datasheet templates based on some of the most common protocols that people do on Anecdata to try to help people get up and running a little bit faster. Next slide, please. And so the participation models that we have, you can have an open project where anybody can create an Anecdata account and join the project. You can have membership by request, where people request to join and then an administrator has to let them in. You can have closed membership where nobody can request to join, and it's just the people who the administrator invites, and you can invite people and it sends out an email to them and they get a link and they can come to Anecdata and join. And finally, you can have anonymous participation, and we built this for some of our projects originally. I'm not certain that anybody else is using this model yet, but it lets people completely anonymously enter data onto Anecdata. Next slide, please. And so we try to be a little opinionated about our data sheet system. we can't build a data sheet system that will be good for everybody, but we find that our data sheet model works pretty well for what we actually do. So you have a concept of parent fields, which is basically fields that apply to the entire observation. So for example, that might be like weather today, what's the name of your school, um, stuff like that. And then then you've got these rows under that, which have a list of fields in them. And you can collect, for example, you can collect just one row with the rest of your observation, or you can collect tabular data. So if you need to report a bunch of different data, it can be collected there. And we support a bunch of different data types: text, numbers, checkboxes, controlled vocabularies, dates and times, geospatial coordinates, image uploads, and species references, which are all referenced against the IDIS species database. Next slide, please. And so some new things that we were offering on Anecdata right now with our, well, I'm going to talk about our not our relaunch, but our redevelopment. You can now have selective per field privacy on any field on your data sheet. We just launched, we actually just relaunched our bulk data editor, which is really slick, and it lets you see kind of like as an Excel sheet the contents of all the data in your project, and you can edit the data. You can embed charts and maps into other websites. We offer multiple data licenses, and yeah, I mentioned the bulk data editor already. Next slide, please. And so we have, for example, we've got a list view where you can see where you can scroll through all the observations. Next slide, please. You can have a map view where you can see spatially where everything is. This is I believe a map of dog poop that was collected by Earthwise Aware, who've been wonderful users of Anecdata, and they've been doing a whole lot of work in the Boston area. Next slide, please. And finally, you can do data analysis, and we are going to be releasing updated data analysis tools soon. Next slide, please. And yeah, and here's our bulk data editor, which is actually prettier since I made my slide deck. Next slide, please. And so we offer many ways to communicate. You can comment, you can post in forums, you can also send direct messages, which after a certain amount of time go to email. Next slide, please. And we also offer geoprivacy, location blurring, if you will. So to obscure the exact location of something while still, generally showing where the data was collected. Next slide, please. And we have data privacy. So here we have a sample that was collected as part of one of our projects. All the red fields, well, I had to redact them again because that was private data. Next slide, please. And we offer multiple languages. So we offer right now, I believe, a French, German, Norwegian, Swedish, Icelandic, Thai, Vietnamese, then you say Spanish and Portuguese. Those are really big languages. And we're always working all the time on offering new languages, and we would love to get your crowdsourced language translations. So we have a tool for that. Next slide, please. And you can create custom apps with us. We actually have partnered with South Carolina Aquarium to create an app for them. That's just their projects, and we would love to make more. Next slide, please. And we've got integration with SiteStarter, so you can just check a box, and your project will be synced with SiteStarter. Additionally, we sync participation. Next slide, please. And here's a really cool thing. Over the course of the summer, I totally rebuilt the back end of Anecdata in TypeScript with a new framework, and we have full documentation on how to interact with our APIs. Next slide, please. And so we made things a lot prettier this fall. This is the Litter Journal project with South Carolina Aquarium. And yeah, next slide, please. And generally, the projects that work well, we find more complex biodiversity protocols, phenology, water quality monitoring, trash pickups, collection of non-biodiversity imagery. But there's other platforms that are better for certain things, like biodiversity reports. I'd say use iNat. If you want to do image classification, I would say use Zooniverse. And I'm certain that other platforms here have features that would be cool as well. Next slide, please. And so right now we've got over 450 projects, 20,000 users, and all of these cool organizations are using our platform. Next slide. And yeah, we've got some general trends here, I think. And next slide, please. And coming soon, we've got updated data analysis tools, an updated analysis API, achievements and badges. We're going to have overlays for data maps and color-coded alerts for variables that fall outside certain bounds. All right, it's been wonderful being here. And I'd like to introduce Sarah Newman, who's from sci.org.
Thank you, Cait. That was fantastic. My name's Sarah Newman. I'm from the Director of Operations at sci.org, and I work with a next slide, Sarah. Thanks, or Reanna. And I work with a great team of people. Some of these are paid staff. Some of these are volunteers in either development or a variety of communications and other things. And others are students at the undergraduate and graduate level. So it's a lot of fun. And we are also a easy-to-use participatory science platform, much like Anecdata in many ways. Next slide, Sarah. Or sorry, I don't know who's actually forwarding the slides. So we were developed in 2007, and we have about over 1,000 projects with about 180,000 observations and lots of measurements to go with those observations. Next slide. Our mission is to support citizen science, community-based research, and engage scholarship to really help meet community needs and across the globe. Next slide. And just like Cait was saying about Anecdata, we're free and open source. We have an easy-to-use data sheet creator, a number of integrations like Airtable, Zooniverse, SciStarter. We even have an R package. We offer organizational hubs. So if you find yourself with lots of projects and you kind of want to organize them, we can help you with that. You can build your projects with us. And then we have data visualizations and some flexible governance and privacy, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Next, please. So much like what Cait was saying, we cover a wide variety of projects, topic areas from animals and conservation to disasters, trash, fungi, and even microorganisms. Next, please. And we recently reorganized our project page so it's easier to search and sort and find what you need based on the recent activity or relevance or the topic. Next slide. And this is just a quick example. If you selected birds, you could look at projects in order of newest activity to oldest activity, so you can get that kind of recent activity right there in the search. Next, please. And we have a number of manager features. So over the course of my career, I've gotten to use almost every platform that's being presented today in some way, which I absolutely love. And Sarah's absolutely right. Each one has a different purpose. And so they've all been valuable in their own way. The things that we offer to the managers of projects that you might be thinking about starting, obviously creating it, putting your data sheet in there. We offer a lot. We really think about science. So a lot of our data sheet features are very scientist friendly and try and cover a lot of different use scenarios. Lots of different privacy and membership styles, much like Anecdata, open and closed, different privacy settings based on data sheets, questions, and whole projects. Drag and drop data sheets, creation, and then lots of integrations, like I mentioned earlier, member management, and then similarly forums and ways to talk and provide feedback with your community as well. So I'll leave it at that. Next slide. All right, so I will not read this slide, but this kind of just outlines the privacy and governance options that we have. And we will be also working on location blurring. That's in development and will be really exciting the way that it's being implemented when it gets released, hopefully this year. The next slide, Sarah. We also have a really great multi-part infographic to help you through the project creation process. This is one of a few different kinds of graphics we have, but this one particularly helps you understand the different questions you might be asking about governance and privacy and membership as you're going through that process of creating your project. So we'll be happy to share this with folks. It is available on our website as well. Next, please. And then this is just a quick example of our project builder, and you can kind of see just some of the features and what it looks like and what you're being asked to put in there. Next, please. And then an example of what our data sheet creator looks like. So on the left, you're working in the settings and trying to figure out what you're going to do for your data sheet. And then on the right is that preview of what it looks like, so you can kind of see what you're building as you go. Next, please. And then let's see. Oh, is that different? Okay. Next, please. Thing. Okay. And then manage assignments. So what I wanted to point out here, this is a big feature of SitSci, is sometimes you have to assign locations to a particular volunteer, or you want to kind of manage who's going where. So we have a feature in the datasheet creator that allows you to do that. So you can pick who's going where and help refine that list of locations a bit. And then you can also do this at the datasheet level. So it doesn't just need to be for the whole project. You can decide for a given data sheet who needs to be assigned to what locations. All right, next, please. And then new this year, we're really excited. We worked with a partner on map overlays. So in this example, you can see some GIS layers that have been added for the Blue River in Colorado for a beaver dam project. And then that example in the lower corner is a drought map that is being overlaid. So you can look at drought conditions in relation to some grains that are being grown in the country. And then you can choose to add these different layers, and we can help you with adding them. And these are right now mostly point, line, and polygon, and we're also working on raster maps, so that should be available soon. Next, please. Okay, and then participant features include things like a web application as well as a mobile app. You can look at data in real time, so maps and charts, discuss with forums, and then share photos and observations, analyze the data at a basic level, and then even like your favorites and that sort of thing. Next, please. Okay, and then this is just a quick example of what an observation page might look like if it's publicly available. You can see their photos, the map location, and also what they entered. Next, please. And from a data analysis point of view, I've blocked out the location for this, the exact details, but you can see what some continuous data for air temperature might look like if you're doing data over time. Next, please. And then here's an example of categorical data and what that analysis might look like. Next. And some pie chart data, again, for more categorical data. And then you can kind of see on the bottom right there, that's not exactly how it looks on the screen, but we've pulled out some numerical data so you can see like sample size, min, max, that sort of thing. All right, next. I mentioned the integrations. So SciStarter, Zooniverse, and Airtable are some of our primary ones. Not really sure why SciStarter is there twice, but and then we also have that R package that I mentioned. Go ahead. I'm going quick because I know we have a lot of people yet to go. And then we have an API also on the back end. And this allows, if you are in the space where you really need a custom website, custom mobile app, you can build it upon the SitSci backend. And just like we would encourage recognition of all of our volunteers and all the things that they do, we always just encourage you, if you want to use our API, let us know. We could work with you on it, and also please recognize us in whatever you're doing, and just tell us about it so we can brag about you in the future. Go ahead, next. All right, and then last but not least, next week we are launching some new features to help with visualizing data on our maps, and we're really, really excited about this symbology. So in this example, you're seeing the count of observations color-coded on this quartile kind of scale down at the bottom, that yellow to purple looking scale. And it's just kind of showing like those spots that have just one observation and those locations that have more observations. And then next slide. This is an example of categorical data observation. So this one's showing stream flow, no flow, or low flow. And there's a small legend at the bottom left there. So the different categories. So what this new tool will allow us, or map tool will allow you to do, is select a data sheet and then select a variable and see the different categories or the different observations highlighted in that way. All right, next, please. All right, and then I'll leave this here. This is just some places where you can get some more information if you want to dig into SITSI a bit more. Next, please. And what we're a good fit for and not a good fit for. And I'll let folks take a look at that on their own later because I know we're pressed for time. All right, next. And I'd like to introduce Jessica Bean, who is with FieldScope and UC Berkeley.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you for inviting us to be a part of this amazing panel. Again, my name is Jessica Bean. I am representing FieldScope. FieldScope is based at BSc of Science Learning in Colorado, and I work out of UC Berkeley as the Director of Science and Education. Next slide, please. So FieldScope is a map-based data collection and analysis platform, and a lot of what we also do is that we support different types of formal and informal educational programs, because the primary tools that we have worked on at FieldScope and continue to develop are really to support people in turning their data into stories and to really thinking about the meaning behind their data. And so like you see here on the slide, some examples of graphs and maps that are made within the FieldScope platform. So we really serve the purpose of being both that home for your data and also a way of quickly being able to start to visualize and work with that data in meaningful ways. Next slide, please. So if you go to our project homepage, you'll see the menu option at the top, Join a Project. Next slide, please. And under that, you'll see projects that range in like scope from national and international to very hyper local. So we host data from projects like Journey North and Project Budburst. Our largest project is Frogwatch USA. And then we host and support projects that are statewide and regional, and also, again, very, very local, hyper local. So, for example, the Loco Ea project is a project in Hawaii that focuses on monitoring particular fish ponds that are of cultural significance in Hawaii. And so we again, we're open to supporting all sorts of projects at various scales. Next slide, please. And these are just some of the ones that we host. And again, one of our primary goals is to provide users with different types of visualizations, ways that they can work with their data and use their data, and really also lower, like reduce the learning curve that's necessary for learners of all ages to be able to hop in and start doing this kind of work. So we really think of our tools as being sort of aimed at middle schoolers and above in terms of how, again, how different people can pick up the tools and start to use them and start to think about and make sense of the data that are being collected. And again, we're really lucky to end up becoming partners with a lot of projects to figure out how to best use these tools and what are the types of visualizations that are most appropriate for thinking about their data and working through, again, making meaning and making sense of their information. So again, we have different types of maps and range plots and bar graphs and histograms, different types of numeric summaries that can be made, and time series graphs and scatter plots. Next slide, please. And so just to give you a sense of how this works, I actually came to this project because I was working with a young girl in India who started a water quality monitoring project, a low-cost toolkit, and she needed a tool, a home for her data, and she also wanted people to be able to work with their data. And so these are actually some data from her project called Water Insights. And so what you see here are menus on the left side of the screen that allow you to, for example, filter data. So these are some data that have been collected across the United States. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see again that there's this ability to filter in different ways, by area, by date, by organization or location where data have been collected, by values. And so let's say we want to make an area filter. Again, we just can select these things using this drop-down menu. Next slide, and draw a circle over that area that you want to filter that data for, and then be able to work specifically with data. So these are data that came from a particular high school in Northern California, near Santa Cruz, south of San Francisco. And so again, we can filter that data just for their data set. And then if you go to the next slide, then we can decide what are the types of visualizations that we want to make with these data. Next slide, please. And so, for example, if we want to make a bar chart just showing the different types of water samples that have been collected, we can again do that just, again, selecting these different menus on the left side of the screen. We can also do things like categorize these bars for these different water types, like tap water, lake water, and rainwater. So if you go to the next slide, we can see that now we've categorized these bars for thinking about when were they collected and thinking about, the time of year. So, looking at the rainwater and the runoff and the stormwater, we can think like, okay, that makes sense that these were collected in February because, that is historically the wet season in California. So again, it helps us provide these tools so people can start jumping in and thinking about what are the nature of their data, how can they make sense of what are the stories we can tell, and what can we learn. Next slide, please. And here's just an example of a range plot showing, again, the pH ranges for these different types of water collected by this high school. Next slide. And again, we also can provide tools for creating all sorts of maps, changing the base layer, changing the symbology, the legend there you see on the side that shows pH. And if you go to the next slide, again, changing the base map. This is now showing, I think, nitrate instead of pH. Yep. So again, next slide. So again, just to sort of recap, like we are a shared project database, so we can support all sorts of data, numeric and also photos, audio, video, different file types, which we can specify for you if you have questions about that. But we are also providing these visualization and analysis tools. That's something that we really try to emphasize, is that we want this to be a learning tool for people to go beyond data collection, but to be able to really make sense of their data. And the visualizations and analyses that you create in FieldScope can be embedded in other websites. So if you want your visualization to be updated and for people to be able to look at that visualization on your own website, not just going to FieldScope, you can create that embed and be able to have that graph update over time as more data comes in. We also provide all sorts of tools for managers to be able to keep track of data and participants, and be able to download and use that data, take that data wherever you need to. And you can also assign various roles and have various privacy settings, much like we've seen from the other platforms as well. And we're very concerned with thinking about things like data sovereignty. We've worked with Indigenous communities before, and there's particular tools that have come out of those partnerships to support people in deciding how and when their data will be shared. And also tools for groups. We have some really large projects like Frogwatch that have different chapters, different groups that are operating within the project and supporting people to be able to manage those different groups when you have a really large project. Next slide, please. And I do want to share a sneak peek that we have an exciting development coming in 2026. We have redesigned and developed a new version of the FieldScope platform. We're going to be maintaining all of our current functionality, but we think there's going to be a great new look and a much more intuitive workflow that people will be able to use in creating, again, these data visualizations and ways of filtering data. And we're also very excited about the fact that now we're going to be able to work with even much larger data sets in these visualizations and have more data display option types available to us, things like pie charts and heat maps, which were not available before. And we also have some new data visualization dashboard features that are going to be available for how you can really edit and format your visualizations for particular needs. And we are also going to be able to hand over more control to project owners to create and update their own project pages over time. This was something that FieldScope historically was very involved in, and it had to be an iterative and supported process. And now we're going to be able to hand over the reins to project owners when they want that freedom to be able to create and update their projects, which is very exciting. So that is coming in 2026. Next slide, please. I also just want to reiterate that we are often partners in developing educational materials because of the nature of our tools, that we focus on data sense making and data visualization tools. One example of materials that have come out of FieldScope are invitations to inquiry. These are short 2 to 3 hour lessons that support learners in exploring data. And we are actively working with new projects right now that are developing invitation to inquiry lessons. And, again, the idea is that these will be really accessible to teachers thinking about implementing NGSS and other standards and trying to think about how do we get our kids to think about and use real data and use these experiences as a stepping stone to more open inquiry that's possible in the classroom. Next slide, please. And just to reiterate that we do have a process that we use for launching projects, and we provide a lot of support if you need it for filling out templates and designing your project and testing your project. We do have a licensing agreement. We try to keep our services at low or no cost, and we have a waiver program for projects that need that are looking for services without the need for funds, and we are here to support you with that. Because we have generous support from the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation that has allowed us for that work to continue. Next slide, please. And finally, I just want to say thank you again for having me. Again, I'm based at UC Berkeley. FieldScope is its home is at BSCS Science Learning. And next, I'd like to hand it over to Holi Kohl, who is the director or contractor, at NASA Goddard's Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. And she manages the implementation of Globe Observer for citizen scientists as a part of the Globe program.
Thank you so much, Jessica, and thank you for letting me be here today. It's a pleasure. Next slide, please. So GLOBE is an acronym. It stands for the Global Learning and Observations to Benefit the Environment. And for those unfamiliar with the program, it's a 30-year-old program that enables participants in 127 countries to collect environmental data in support of earth science and upload that to a free and open database. For those familiar with GLOBE, you will know that it was initially built to engage educators and students in collecting environmental data. To participate, teachers had to apply to join GLOBE and then receive training once they were accepted into the program. In 2016, we launched the Globe Observer app to allow anyone to collect a subset of GLOBE's environmental data without that formal application or training process beyond very simple in-app guidance. But they were limited for data collection protocols. Next slide. But that is actually changing next week. So next week, GLOBE will be undergoing a monumental change. It's making all of its accounts equal, removing the application requirement and making training available to everybody online. So this means that anyone can take training online and enter data for any of GLOBE's protocols through the Globe Observer app. This is possible now because of a new training system. Individuals are trained in the protocols that they want to use and no longer need to take overarching training for the entire program. So if you're interested in measuring air temperature, you just have to learn about air temperature, and then you can enter that data to the GLOBE program. Next slide. The other big change that has been happening a little bit more gradually is that GLOBE is really focusing its programmatic emphasis on building data collection partnerships with scientists and with communities. So we're working to build ground-based data collection to complement NASA's space-based data collection. And we're encouraging people to support individual research projects, but at the same time also add to this broad database of the 30-year record that we already have of environmental data to enable future science. So between those two changes, it will open up more possibilities for people interested in building a citizen science project in GLOBE. So let me share a couple of recent examples, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of the new protocols that everybody will have access to. Next. So this is a new project called Blowing Snow. It just launched last week, December 1st. Blowing snow is a dangerous weather condition that has been traditionally really hard to track. Blowing snow happens when wind blows over fresh snow and it lofts that snow up into the atmosphere, and it really impacts visibility. And it turns out that it's been kind of a hard thing to manage or to tell people about, because traditional weather radar just doesn't see it. It's not precipitation falling from the sky. So forecasters and people issuing warnings really only know blowing snow is happening when they get reports from the ground, typically from law enforcement and from traffic cameras and that sort of thing. The newest generation of polar orbiting weather satellites now have the spectral and spatial resolution to be able to detect blowing snow. But scientists at NOAA have reached out to us to ask us to collect ground-based photos to verify that that blowing snow is happening on the ground. It's a rare event, so it's kind of hard to know when it's actually happening. And they want that data that matches up with the satellite so that they can verify that, yes, in fact, there was blowing snow at this date, time, location, and that the thing we're seeing in satellite is in fact blowing snow. Next. So the way they're doing this is a really interesting, it's a really nice example of how to use an existing GLOBE protocol to look at something new for your project. So this particular project is built on GLOBE clouds, which has a data field in place for blowing snow. So with GLOBE clouds, what we ask people to do is look at the sky, tell us what the cloud conditions are, and take pictures of the sky. Well, in one of the options that people have to select is that I really can't see the sky because there's something in my way. It's obscured. And one of the options for things that could obscure the sky is blowing snow. So we're asking people to open clouds, tell us when the sky is obscured, and then photograph that blowing snow. And then we have a new notes field that we've added to clouds. And we ask people to tell us, what direction are you facing when you took this photo? Are there landmarks that are visible? And if so, do you know how far away they are, so that we get a sense of how much visibility has been impacted by this blowing snow event? So they've taken this existing protocol that wasn't designed necessarily for this, but with it, they're able to get the data that they need. Next. Another recent project was NASA Response Mappers. And with this project, the NASA Disasters Program was developed to provide satellite data and NASA products to first responders after a disaster. So they're getting all the information they can, get it out to first responders. They get a sense of what's happening on the ground to figure out how to allocate resources first. And one of the things that NASA Disasters was really interested in was, how do you fill in gaps in some of the data that we have? How do you help people better interpret some of that satellite data? And they wanted to get ground-based photos of storm damage. So we set up a project with them in which people were using our land cover tool to photograph storm damage in the southeastern United States during the hurricane season. Now, it turned out, fortunately, that there were no hurricanes during the hurricane season that made landfall and significant damage in the United States. So this pilot project didn't get as much data, but it was a good experiment in terms of how do we use this to create the project to get them the sort of thing that they need. And they're in the middle of analyzing that data now, and we'll be reporting out to our community on January 22nd. We invite you to attend. Next. So if you have a project or a citizen science project that you want to build, you're collecting environmental data, there's a chance that you could build it in GLOBE. We're not a typical platform like some of the others that you've heard about today, but what we do offer is a series of protocols that are predefined, they're scientifically vetted, and we have a lot of protocols. And now everybody has access to all of these protocols. And I know this is an eye chart and you can't read them all, but I just wanted to show you the number of protocols that we have. Next. So why use GLOBE for your project? As I said, we have 50 predefined science-vetted protocols and more combinations of protocols that you could build and adapt on to create your project. We have a free and open database that you don't have to manage. We have more than 280 million measurements in the database already, and those go back to 1995. So when you're building on a GLOBE protocol, you're creating a project that, yes, is looking forward and collecting the data you want, but you also have a way to look back in time with that same protocol going back 30 years. And that's not something that's easy to do. We do have an app, the Globe Observer app, for data collection and data entry. We have an existing volunteer base of nearly 1.3 million volunteers, and that's a global database or global community. We have registration, user management, permissions, all that sort of thing managed for you, and tools to support new projects. Go ahead and go next. Some of those tools, we allow you to put data requests into the app so people will get an alert to see your project. Next. And we have a Teams function that allow you to create a community within our larger community so that you have a way to create a smaller space that is more tied to your project. Next. So thank you for your time today. And more information about us at observer.globe.gov. And now it is my pleasure to hand it over to, I'm so sorry I don't have that on, to Alison Young with iNaturalist. Thank you, Alison.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm Alison. I am the Director of Outreach Programs at iNaturalist. I'll be obviously chatting about the iNaturalist platform next. So iNaturalist exists to help people explore biodiversity through technology and also to advance global understanding of biodiversity. Basically, through the collective efforts of people all over the world sharing observations and identifications, new insights about biodiversity emerge every day on iNaturalist. iNaturalist has been around since 2008, and we are translated into about 60 languages and dialects. Next. So how iNaturalist works, we're an app and we're a website where basically you document evidence of an organism, a plant, an animal, a fungus. At its simplest, people use their phone with the iNaturalist app on it. You take a photo or you can record a sound and you get a suggestion for what it is that you just observed, or you can add your own identification if you prefer. The data that's associated with that photo, like where you are and what day it is also recorded. And then once you upload that observation to iNaturalist, the community can confirm or correct the identification. When the identification is confirmed, iNaturalist shares the data with other databases, also used really extensively for science and conservation, GBIF, the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, most notably. So what began as just a photo, an individual encounter with nature, is now a data point, a record that this particular species was seen at this location on this day by this person. And this is information that helps scientists understand things like how species and places are changing through time, and also helps people who manage and protect species and places make more informed conservation decisions. Next. So one of the main features for projects on iNaturalist is that projects are available for anyone to make and contribute to. For example, this project, Pollination DC, which is run by the Smithsonian and the University of DC, which looks at the wild species that use small community gardens in the Washington, DC area as habitat. Our projects aggregate some statistics for you. You can see that over 1,000 people have contributed more than 4,000 observations from community gardens, documenting almost 900 species. Next. Projects also let you see the most recent observations that have come into that project. Next. They also have leaderboards, so you can see who's made the most observations and found the most species, what the most observed species are, which could be motivating for competitive people. Next. And you can also see the map of observations. So in this case, they're all in these little tiny community gardens around Washington, D.C. And this is the type of project we call a collection project, which is the most common project that people use on iNaturalist, where you set up kind of the rules or the filters for observations, and then iNaturalist automatically aggregates those observations into your project. Next. This is the other type of project we have, our traditional projects. If the observations you want to gather can't be filtered for by like taxa or location or by user, like this particular project, people's homes aren't locations on iNaturalist. So in this type of project, people join your project, then they add their observations to your project. And in traditional projects, you can also require other observation fields to gather additional data, more than just the observation itself. Next. So there are millions of people in the iNaturalist community made up of scientists and amateur experts, like the birders that you might know, land managers, students, park rangers, outdoor enthusiasts. It's basically a community for anyone who's interested in nature to share their observations and to help identify other people's finds. Anyone can submit observations and everyone can help with identifications. Next. Currently, there are over 280 million observations around the world on iNaturalist of over 540,000 species, which is about a quarter of all known species on Earth. And these have been made by almost 4 million people. All the data on iNaturalist are free to download, and we also share research-grade observations, like I said before, with GBIF. Next. The core of iNaturalist is the community and the interactions between users that happen around the globe as people share their observations and others help identify what they saw, commenting on those observations as well. Next. And the New York Times did call iNaturalist the nicest place online. The interactions between members tend to be very friendly and very helpful. Next. So features that make iNaturalist fun for people, make people want to keep contributing beyond projects. You personally, any individual person can keep track of everything you've seen. You can see a map of where you've made all your observations. Like this is my map of my observations. Next. You can also see all the species that you've seen, very similar to how like birders keep a life list. This is your life list of all species that you've ever seen. Next. And you can explore all the observations on iNaturalist, which is great for getting to know the species that you might see on your next hike or on your next vacation, or just getting to know the species that are in your neighborhood or around your school. The fact that you can see everybody else's observations as well. Next. So the identification suggestions is probably the biggest wow factor of iNaturalist. We have a computer vision and a geo model that provides suggestions for identification when people take that first photo. This is especially nice for people who are just like brand new to the idea of documenting and knowing the species around you. The fact that they can instantly put a name to something and start to form that relationship with the species that they're seeing in their local area. Next. Some new features, I think since the last time this webinar has happened, that we have on iNaturalist is we have taxon photo similarity, where species suggestions that you see will now show you the photos that are similar to the photo you just took. And this is trained on our computer vision model. Previously, if you took a photo of a caterpillar, iNaturalist would give you suggestions, but it would show you like the adult moth and say, we're pretty sure it's this species, which makes it hard to compare. So now if you observe a caterpillar, iNaturalist will show you like, we think it's this species, but it will show you the caterpillar of that species, which I think is particularly nice for people so they can really connect what they just saw to the suggestions that iNaturalist is giving them. Next. We also recently released our open range map data set. This is innovation on our geomodel work. This was released as a celebration of having 100,000 species modeled in our computer vision and geomodel. And these data sets are built from the iNaturalist community on all those observations. These range maps improve every month as we retrain our model, and they're intended to be a data-driven complement to traditional range maps by reflecting actual species occurrences. Next. You can bulk download these ranges by taxon, like if you wanted to get all the reptiles, you can download all of them, or you can also download individual range maps on taxon pages. So this is good if you're really interested in understanding where species are occurring around the world. Next. Yeah, so another innovation that's built from our geomodel is the anomaly detector. This feature is really useful if you're interested in tracking things like non-native or invasive species. So the anomaly detector helps correct misidentifications and inaccurate locations, but it also surfaces interesting discoveries, like species that are found in a place where they haven't previously been documented before. So here's just a quick example that I put together looking at the green tree frog. Blue is the expected nearby map, the range map for green tree frogs. The orange is all those observations. Using the anomaly detector surfaces those observations that are outside of that range map, that expected nearby map. So this observation in Panama is a misidentification. iNaturalist suggestions tell me this is likely some species of yellow tree frog, but that observation in Denver is a correct identification in an unexpected place. The observer said that her neighbor had bought a bunch of new plants and added them to his yard, and this frog showed up with those plants, and now this frog gets to enjoy Colorado winters. Next. So iNaturalist is a well-established platform. Like I said, we've been around since 2008. We do share that weekly data sharing that we do with the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. All of our data are freely downloadable on iNaturalist or through GBIF itself. We do also have an open API. There have been over 6,500 publications made using iNaturalist data. So it's nice to be able to let folks that are contributing to your project that, like, even though we might not have results right away, that people are constantly using the iNaturalist data set to answer big questions about species and places and how they're changing through time. The computer vision and geospatial modeling that we have is currently for the 111,000 most commonly observed species, which is how people get those suggestions. And we have hundreds of new, undescribed, and rediscovered species that have been documented through iNaturalist. Next. So generally, iNaturalist is a really good fit if you're interested in presence-only biodiversity records. That's really the bread and butter. Species occurrence records is what iNaturalist collects. It's great if you really want to leverage the existing data that's already on iNaturalist. Like I said, with 280 million observations that are already there, the infrastructure that's already on iNaturalist are almost 5 million people that are in our community, and the expertise that's already on iNaturalist with people helping with identifications. iNaturalist, really importantly, it's if you're willing to get involved and learn iNaturalist yourself, it's a great platform. The best projects tend to be run by people who are very familiar with iNaturalist and are a part of the iNaturalist community already. And when you have an intrinsically motivated audience who's excited to get outside and collect this data. iNaturalist is a poor fit for things like checklists. Like if you want to track absence of things, we don't collect absence data. If you want more complex data fields that for your project, iNaturalist is not it. We're really all about species occurrence records. If you don't want to learn a new platform, we don't recommend using iNaturalist. It does take some learning to get to know it and to teach other people how to use it. Anonymous participation, people do have to create accounts to participate on iNaturalist and to share observations, but they don't actually have to share any identifying information, except the fact that their locations obviously show up as they make observations. Coerced audiences, students, not the best audience, and also kids under 13, because for COPA compliance, they shouldn't be on iNaturalist. So now I would like to move on and introduce Cliff Johnson, the director and science lead at the Adler Planetarium at Northwestern University, to talk about Zooniverse.
Thanks, Allison. It's great to be here today. Go ahead, next slide. Yeah, well, let's dive right in. So the Zooniverse is a free online platform for people-powered research. Some highlights to kind of like give you some stats on the platform itself. We host over 70 active projects on the platform right now. About 500 total have launched since about 2009. And that's about one launch kind of per week since about 2017. And this is all kind of enabled through our Project Builder platform, which I'll talk about in just a few minutes. But really the core of nope, go back, please. Thanks. The core of our platform really is our huge volunteer pool who are very committed to a whole host of different projects. So we have 2.9 million volunteers currently registered on the platform, and they are the ones who kind of perform over 250,000 classifications per day. So we have projects that span a whole range of domains. We kind of bias towards space and astronomy domains. That's where a lot of our researchers kind of natively come from, including myself. But we do have projects in ecology, humanities, biomedical, and a whole host of others. And we're very proud of over 500 publications that have emerged out of those projects over time. And yeah, next slide, please. Really, go no further than our original project, Galaxy Zoo, which is actually still an active project on the platform, to just give you a sense of kind of what a Zooniverse project really is. And typically it's, I am a researcher, I have a very large set of data, and I would like to have help from volunteers in order to do some classification and labeling of that data. So here for Galaxy Zoo, it's a typical example of being able to answer kind of multiple choice questions in a question tree. And so this has been a very successful project over more than a decade. And so the most recent iteration of Galaxy Zoo decals, was actually 7.5 million classifications of over 300,000 galaxy images. And so Galaxy Zoo has gone through many different iterations, many different data sets, but is kind of one of our platform kind of core projects. A more typical project, I think, on the Zooniverse platform ranges in kind of a little bit smaller than this. So 10,000 to 100,000 subjects, subjects being the individual images or pieces of data that you'd like volunteers to operate on. requiring somewhere between 100,000 and 1 million classifications. And a lot of those projects are attracting somewhere between 1,000 and 10,000 volunteers. Next, please. And so really the core of the Zooniverse platform is the fact that we've kind of over time built a range of different tools for being able to classify data online by these Zooniverse volunteers. And so, we found very quickly that a common set of tools could really be used in a lot of different domains and a lot of different applications. And so some of those tools are marking tools, so image annotation, but also just, simple multiple choice questions, text fields, drop-down fields, and, just with those kind of set of tools and tasks has attracted, hundreds of different project efforts. And we do have a flexible range of different data formats. A majority of our projects are working on image data, but we do also have projects working on video, text, audio, and then also JSON data where if you actually have data plots, that's something that we can also support as well. Next slide, please. And so all of this comes together through our free project builder tool. And so this is basically a DIY way for researchers to be able to kind of come in, set up their own project. It's like you're seeing here. It's a lot of drag and drop for kind of images, fill in text forms to be able to populate websites, and then also using a set of tools for actually uploading the subject data itself. And so we do have nice tutorials on help.zooniverse.org. And I really do encourage anyone who's considering it to just dive in and give it a shot. We can always be reached at contact@zooniverse.org if you have questions and run into issues. But we've found that, just based on our kind of limited tutorials and online documentation and a lot of kind of help text within the project builder itself, people do very well actually getting their projects set up. Next slide, please. And so we do have a number of kind of research-facing tools that I wanted to highlight here. The first is that we do have a public API, and that allows for people to be able to interact with the platform in a programmatic way. And so we have a Python API client and also a command line interface tool. That's very useful for teams who are doing bulk uploads and subject uploads. But we do also allow kind of those API interactions so that people can, kind of consider ways of automating their project pipelines to basically feed from their own data sources into a Zooniverse project. We do have some kind of real-time orchestration and kind of aggregation through our Caesar app. And I do want to highlight that we do have we have a number of different interfaces for actually working with machine learning models. Some of those, are being able to push data up to the platform and classify, but some of them are also very advanced in being able to enable kind of active learning, kind of human in the loop interactions as well. And so we do have some data analysis assistance, both in the form of software and from consultations, especially for NASA projects. So do feel free to reach out. But I do want to just highlight that, we do have this kind of standard process where you will go on, build the project. If you're interested in becoming an approved kind of promoted project on the platform, you'll submit for review. We'll do an internal review from the Zooniverse team, do a beta test, and then bring you to launch. And so excited to kind of lead you through that whole process. Next slide. Just wanting to highlight a few of the engagement tools. So this is really, an important way for research teams to be able to interact with their volunteer pools. A core tool is our talk forums, and here being able to comment on the data and the subjects themselves, but also just kind of a standard message board to be able to interact and answer questions that volunteers may have. We support translations of project content. And we also have a mobile app for, especially for the simpler workflows that we feature on the platform. Next slide. I did want to highlight kind of two new features since the last platform's engagement, and where we have some group engagement tools. This allows you to basically create a group and being able to look at pooled stats for members of that group. This is great not only for classroom applications, but also just for kind of groups of motivated people who want to see their efforts kind of joined together and, tracked over time. But we do also offer some participation certificates. This is very important and often requested, especially for student service hour compliance. And so that is a new feature kind of enabled through the user stats portion of the platform. Next slide, please. So to kind of go over a little bit of, where are the, the best fits and some of the poor fits. So really the lifeblood of Zooniverse is, very large data sets needing, very large numbers of volunteers where, being able to draw from the enormous pool of Zooniverse volunteers is a very useful recruitment and kind of built-in recruitment tool. And if you are interested in kind of using one of our existing set of proven tools, that's great. And so, I list a few other items here. But in terms of poor fit, I really kind of refer you to a few of the other platforms that are mentioned here for data collection. Anywhere where someone's taking a picture and wanting to submit that, we really need a different kind of platform or resource in order to do that kind of aggregation of volunteer uploaded data. However, we do have very nice integrations between iNat, SitSci, and a few other platforms to be able to import data in a kind of a streamlined way in order to then do the Zooniverse kind of classification steps. Also, if you really need very custom interfaces, that we may not be the platform for you, though we do encourage people to get in touch. There are some kind of new methods that we are pursuing regarding kind of custom interfaces and custom kind of like front ends for being able to support new workflow types. And so kind of with the last few seconds, I'll go to the next slide. I just want to highlight that we have a very fruitful kind of NASA partnership between NASA and Zooniverse. This has led to 25 total projects over the course of 5 years and is something that we currently actively support. I will highlight that, especially if you are a NASA researcher or connected to any NASA research area, I consider you to think about applying for this Citizen Science Seed Funding Program. The next deadline is January 22nd, and Zooniverse projects have done very well in terms of obtaining that funding, with about almost half of the total awards kind of being towards Zooniverse-backed efforts. And thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Cliff. And thanks to everyone for presenting today. This is one of my favorite events that we did 2 years ago. And I love just getting all of the platforms in one place and getting to hear about what's new and what works well. And anyway, great content, everyone, and excited. It was exciting to learn about your platforms. So we heard from 6 platforms today. We did want to end the presentation just with an acknowledgement that there are lots of platforms that participatory science projects are using to collect and classify data. We have some listed in this blog post that we wrote a couple of years ago, where we kind of took some of the information from this webinar. It's where we'll post the recording from today's event. It's kind of a one-stop shop place where you can go. Sarah, if you want to go to the next slide, to learn more about platforms for participatory sciences. We have a list there. Here's a few more. ArcGIS Survey 123, we know a lot of projects are using. Spotteron's really popular, especially in Europe, and there's other platforms out there. And if you have any platforms that you know or are aware of that you think we should add to the list, please reach out and let us know or put them in the chat. We're always eager to add things to that. Next slide. So I put this link in the chat, but this is for that blog post. And one thing that's on that blog post, and if you want to share this with other colleagues who are out shopping for a new platform or starting a new project and don't know where they should do their host their project, Sarah came up with a really great list, and we worked on it as a team on questions to answer when shopping for platforms. It's 10 questions, and I'll help you kind of decide which platform is right for you. Next slide. And you may have noticed a big platform in the field was not a part of today's event. SciStarter is a citizen science, participatory science project finder platform, and it's a great resource for anyone in the field, regardless of what data collection, data classification platform you're using. They have a lot of great features for projects that can help you find volunteers, track volunteer engagement, records. As a lot of the platforms mentioned today, they have integrations with a lot of the platforms that we heard from today. So if you have a project on one of these other sites, you can still be listed on SciStarter. And on January 21st, Emma, who I believe was on the call earlier, may still be on the line, is going to be hosting a lunch and learn with us to talk about how SciStarter can help boost your project and reach more people. And so doing that through SitSci Month, which is an international effort to get, I think they've been getting 1 million or 2 million acts of science the last few years, and other events and tools and resources that SciStarter has to help you to connect with more people. And I'm going to turn it over to Mark, and we're going to move into our Q&A portion. And so I'm going to invite all of the speakers back on camera shortly. But Mark, if you just want to briefly mention, there is a SciStarter Do NASA Science event tonight. And I was going to let Mark mention that before we move into the Q&A with our presenters.
Oh, thank you so much, Reanna. Yes, tonight we're going to have an event that SciStarter is hosting, first of a series of Do NASA Science live events this over the next couple of years. It's going to feature a project called Redshift Wrangler, which is looking at distant galaxies and measuring how far away they are. And you're all invited to participate tonight at 6:30. Please share far and wide and come join us. I get to ask some questions now, right?
Yes. And so,
Yes,
Sarah, I think
we just have a short time. Yeah.
Do you want to stop SlideShare so everyone can be big on the screen again?
And I have to say, my heart is bursting, and I'm like blown away by this group of presentations and this moment with all of you and the amazing progress and beautiful tools and structures that you're all sharing and the amazing work that you're making happen. And the chat is blowing up and people are talking about the details of these platforms. It just feels like this community, we're in a different space today than we were when we did this event in 2023. And I'm just completely, I'm so energized by the energy with all of you. And it's just, I feel so lucky. Thanks. So cool. Go ahead, Mark. You do have a couple minutes to ask questions.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. And let me echo that. Thanks. The work you guys do underlies everything. And I don't know if the millions of people that you're serving thank you enough. So please accept this thanks from us. Jumping right into questions. So one thing that scientists rely on you guys to do for us is as an interface to the public, right? And something that we can't really do ourselves, sometimes is give feedback to participants. Can you guys tell me about the latest innovations in giving feedback to participants so that they feel like their work is being appreciated and so they improve their work?
Well, I was going to build a system that would create an end of year report for all Anecdata users, but I was a little late, and I think the moment may have passed for this year. But next year we're going to be giving people kind of like Spotify Wrapped, but for Anecdata.
It's cool.
I swear, Cait, that you and I are on the same wavelength, because Archie's been talking about that very same thing, and we're also working on a paper thinking a lot about thinking a lot about recompense and reward, and like how do we do a better job just as a field, but as a platform to both automate and provide opportunities for that unique touch point to say, hey, thanks. So lots of rooms for improvement, I think, to do that in a more automated way, but then also help with those more personalized experiences. So it's exciting times, really.
Good. Yes, thank you, Sarah and Cait.
And I note that some of your other platforms actually build in tools so that you can go and look at the number of classifications you made on Zooniverse or your incredible collection of pictures. But Alison, your photographs are so beautiful. I'm not sure mine look quite so nice. Yeah, so those moments for reflection, I think, are so powerful. It's great to see those being worked on by you all and and tools embedded as well.
Okay, moving on. Everybody wants to know about AI, of course, right? How has the rapid improvements in AI affected your work, and what are the participants saying about it?
We haven't had anybody ask about AI, and I personally have very mixed feelings about AI. I think there's some AI that are very for example, I think what SciStarter, not SciStarter, iNaturalist is doing with AI is brilliant. I'm a little more skeptical about more generative AI, like general purpose large language models, that kind of thing. But for example, computer vision, etc., that's something that we would definitely consider integrating into in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Sarah.
Alison. You go first.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, computer vision is the main use of AI on iNaturalist. We have started exploring the use of generative AI. Right now, what we're doing is, a lot of our identifiers, when they're helping people learn how to identify things, they have to leave comments on individual observations to be like, oh, I know it's not this because I can see this thing, right? And all that expertise and that knowledge is contained in all these little comments and all these little individual observations, all scattered through iNaturalist. And so one of the things that we just released a demo, kind of showing our community what this could look like, is we've been gathering those comments across observations, and then having training or running a large language model just on those comments. It can only gather information just from those comments to produce summaries for how to identify these species based on all the comments these identifiers are leaving. So it's a place where people can, instead of trying to gather this data by going and looking through all these observations, it summarizes them and actually then shows you all the comments that led to that summary as well. And so we're trying to, that's kind of our first exploration into generative AI as a way to help people help our identifiers in the tasks that they do, and also help people learn how to identify species easier.
That's very cool. I haven't heard of that before. Feels like you could apply that approach to a bunch of different systems that have comments. Any other thoughts on AI? Innovative uses?
I'll just note that one of the at the Zooniverse, we've been working with the Galaxy Zoo team to be able to basically field a pretty tightly coupled kind of active learning loop where you basically do iterative training of a model, of a classification model, basically, and fielding specific subjects that the model was unsure about in order to basically try to iteratively improve that model over time. So right now, that work is very focused on kind of astronomy applications in the tightly coupled way. But we certainly have tens of projects that have used Zooniverse classifications in order to use as a training set for a whole host, a wide range of models. So yeah, and it's a natural way of all of this machine learning only works well if you have good high quality labels. And so yeah, the Zooniverse projects are a key way of being able to collect that training data over time.
Cliff, do you want to, or can you give us a little update on the AI ethics work that Zooniverse has been doing? And
Yes.
I would note that platforms, one of the values of working with platforms is not only the tools, the technical tools for handling data and workflow, but lots of platforms offer tools for supporting the people as well, from code of conduct to ethics agreements. So I'd love to let you talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll just plug that, especially led by my co-director Sam Blicken, that we funded through an effort with Kavli, that the Zooniverse has kind of had a series of workshops thinking about AI ethics as it pertains to crowdsourcing. And so, that was very important for us to kind of collect feedback from not only our research community, but also our volunteer community, to say what are important things to be able to communicate. And so I think what this will turn out to be is a practical set of kind of best practices that we will kind of present to our project teams about, how do you be very transparent about the use of, volunteer classifications towards training? Where are those models going? the difference between generative AI and, and a lot of the machine learning that the Zooniverse project teams have been running. And yeah, so stay tuned. Those kind of like best practices are kind of in a natal stage right now, being evaluated by the Zooniverse team, but we really hope to roll that out publicly in the coming year.
Michael Feeney has brought up an interesting point in the chat, which I'll paraphrase. What happens when all the data that you guys collect and it's publicly available gets crawled by various different AI tools and assembled into other science stories?
I actually set up a robots.txt file on the Anecdata API, originally hoping to block that from happening. And unfortunately, that meant that Google couldn't scrape our site anymore, so I had to get rid of it.
Hmm. And you want Google to scrape?
I want Google to, yeah, so that people can discover, so Google can use the Anecdata website. It couldn't otherwise.
So I think I don't have a good answer to that, but I will say from a SITSI perspective, I will say I'm working on a different project that is an AI tool for good that's meant to be thinking about how we could do sustainability work more effectively at the state level. And so that bot is being created thinking about how it can scrape local data only and then make meaning out of it in a useful way. And long story short, there's still a long way to go, I think, with that, but how we do that in an ethical way and carefully giving people good answers to science questions around the different themes, in this case, sustainability, I think is actively being looked at and thought about. And I'm excited and terrified both at the same time about where that will go. But it's folks like this in the room, right? Like iNaturalist and Zooniverse and Anecdata and FieldScope, like thinking about how to do that well and practicing and playing with it, that gives me hope that the good will overcome the potentially negative, right? It's exciting. The other thing, last plug I'll make too, is that our lead developer, Brandon Budnicki, is working with LLM natural language processing approaches to think about how to use AI in a way that can analyze the questions people put on their data sheets to help prompt them to make more effective questions. So as a project manager is filling that out, how to maybe reframe so it's better. So excited to see where that goes as well.
Very
I
cool.
am
Thank
going
you.
to interrupt this really. No, just pause. Pause. I hope you can all stay with us. I just want to give a few final kind of reminders, and then I'm going to turn the recording off. We can continue. I hope lots of people stay with us. Okay, let me just do this quick. Okay, so we really do want to hear you tell us if the kind of, like, what of these programs that we've produced, brought to you over the years, the resources, the conversations, make the most value, make the most impact, are the most practically useful to you, and what ideas you have for the future. If you want more conversations like this, all you have to do is let us know. We love doing it. So please open that survey, take a moment now, or keep it open and address it later. Other opportunities to interact with us. Mark and I will be online on December 16 and January 20. You can go to the NASA SITSI Leader Series to register yourself for a NASA Citizen Science Office Hours. Again, everyone's welcome, but we do kind of bias towards conversations that serve the NASA-funded science teams leading citizen science projects. We have a virtual conference for advancing participatory sciences from the Association for Advancing Participatory Sciences. I think the call for papers or for presentations is open right now through the end of January. This is a wonderful, broad conversation. Thinking back to last May when we had an in-person meeting, I really so valued the input from folks from Europe, and just like having a different group of people together, having a conversation about all of this stuff. It's kind of like the energy in this event today, but only more so. So look forward to that in May, and we hope you all make submissions to share the work that you're doing. You've heard about this, the Citizen Science Seed Funding Program call from NASA This is a funding call if you've never applied to NASA and you don't really know your way around ROSES, which is the Research Opportunities for Space and Earth Sciences. You can go back to that nasasci.gmri.org and find recordings that will walk you through what ROSES is all about and how you navigate it and which parts of the 900-page document you have to read. Cliff Notes, it's only a few pages, so go check that out. There are all kinds of resources to help you be successful with NASA. And also, hot off the presses just today, the science activation call went out. You might want to check that out. And I think we've got some links to share in the chat that's probably already happened for more information for both of those. So we'll see you next at office hours and the Association for Advancing Participatory Sciences meeting in the spring. And now I'm going to stop sharing. And Reanna's going to turn off our Q&A. And wow, there's so much going on in my head.